In America today, the political divide isn't just about policy or ideology. It's increasingly about identity, loyalty, and survival. The recent killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk has shocked the nation, not only because of who he was, but because of what his death represents. A dangerous cycle of political violence that could spiral even further out of control. So, what exactly is fueling this political violence in the United States? Why are disagreements turning deadly? And what does this mean for the future of American democracy? Let's break it down. Charlie Kirk was a divisive figure. To his supporters, he was a bold truth-teller, a defender of conservative Christian values, and a champion of free speech. To his critics, however, he was something entirely different. A promoter of hate. Someone who thrived on stoking division with racially charged, sexist, homophobic, and Islamophobic rhetoric. The fact that his life ended in violence says a lot about where America is today. But this isn't just about Kirk as an individual. His killing has become a flashpoint, raising broader fears about whether America is entering a dangerous cycle where violence breeds more violence. And it's not hard to see why people are worried. The United States has always had political debates. That's part of democracy. But in recent decades, those debates have become increasingly toxic. The middle ground is shrinking. Where Americans once disagreed on policy details, today they see their opponents as enemies, even threats to the nation itself. Think about it. More and more Americans say they would not want their children to marry someone from the other political party. Surveys show that members of both parties believe the other side is not just wrong, but dangerous. And on social media, insults and misinformation travel faster than reasoned debate. This atmosphere makes violence more likely. Because when you no longer see your opponents as fellow citizens but as enemies, then extreme actions start to feel justified. One of the most powerful forces driving political hostility is the media environment, especially online platforms. Social media algorithms are designed to reward outrage. They push users toward more extreme content because anger, fear, and tribal loyalty keep people engaged. Charlie Kirk himself was a master of this system. His speeches, podcasts, and posts often went viral because they were provocative, emotional, and combative. Whether you agreed with him or not, you couldn't ignore him. But here's the danger. When people are constantly exposed to extreme rhetoric, it creates an echo chamber where violence feels not only acceptable but necessary. And it's not just the right wing. Across the political spectrum, online communities are radicalizing, convinced that the other side is plotting to destroy the country. Political violence is not new to the United States. The country has seen it at different moments in history. But what's worrying today is how normalized it's becoming. Consider recent events. The January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol showed how quickly political anger could turn into mob violence. Lawmakers from both parties report receiving daily threats to their lives. Ordinary Americans, from election workers to school board members, are being harassed and intimidated just for doing their jobs. And now, the killing of a high-profile figure like Charlie Kirk only adds fuel to the fire. For his supporters, it's a sign that conservatives are under attack. For his opponents, it raises fears of retaliatory violence from the far right. This tit-for-tat mentality, where each side feels justified in striking back harder, is the hallmark of a society heading toward deeper conflict. Another key driver of political violence is the intensity of America's culture wars. These aren't just debates about taxes or healthcare. They're battles over identity, values, and morality. Charlie Kirk made his name in these culture wars, taking strong stances on issues like religion, sexuality, and race. For some Americans, his words gave voice to their frustrations. For others, his language crossed the line into bigotry and hate. But here's the deeper issue. When politics becomes tied to personal identity, when people feel that their very way of life is under threat, compromise becomes almost impossible. Every debate turns into a zero-sum game, where victory for one side feels like existential defeat for the other. And when compromise dies, violence becomes more likely. Another factor fueling political violence is the collapse of trust in America's institutions. From Congress to the courts, from the media to law enforcement, large numbers of Americans believe the system is rigged against them. Conservatives often accuse mainstream media and universities of pushing liberal agendas. Progressives accuse the political system of being dominated by corporate money and far-right influence, and millions of Americans now openly doubt the legitimacy of elections themselves. When people lose faith in democratic institutions, they start to believe that violence is the only way to achieve change. That's why the killing of Charlie Kirk isn't just about one man. It's a symptom of a much bigger problem. The big question now is, where does America go from here? Will the killing of Charlie Kirk spark even more violence, or can it serve as a wake-up call? Some fear a spiral, a tit-for-tat escalation, where each act of violence inspires the next. If that happens, the risk of large-scale political unrest grows dramatically. But there's also another possibility. Sometimes moments of tragedy force a society to pause, reflect, and pull back from the brink. Perhaps this event could spark a wider conversation about the dangers of treating politics like war and the urgent need to restore civility. The killing of Charlie Kirk is a shocking reminder of just how fragile America's political climate has become. But if we look deeper, we see that this was not an isolated act. It was the product of years of growing polarization, online radicalization, broken trust, and culture wars that have turned citizens against each other. If this cycle continues, the consequences for American democracy could be devastating. But the cycle isn't inevitable. Recognizing the dangers, addressing the root causes, and rebuilding trust in democratic institutions are the first steps toward pulling back from the edge. The United States has faced division before and survived. The question now is whether it can do so again. What do you think is fueling political violence in the United States? Is America heading toward more unrest, or can the cycle be broken? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on global and political affairs.